Corey Bryan. Corey Bryan is a product manager, product owner, Agile coach. He also runs the Delivery Cast, which is a great podcast. So with that, Corey Bryan.
Thank you. Thank you. I need somebody who's a good listener. Who's a good listener? I'm trying something, so this is a test. Good listener, keep your hand up. Okay, who also has good aim? That's a good listener. Good aim. Art, okay. And Art's at the back of the room, so this is going to be interesting. I have a monkey. I'm trying something. I'm trying not to say the word but. I really like you, Art, but I find that annoying, and I'm trying to get rid of it. So if I say the word but, please throw the monkey at me. Okay. And I can see it coming. Okay, priorities and how to pick them. Words on priorities. What do people think about priorities? Jumbled. Feelings, huh? Jumbled priorities. What else? Competing effectiveness. ROI, okay. KPIs. Anybody have fun with priorities? No? Somewhat? Some fun?
You get the right environments, it can be very fun.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Strong feelings on priorities? Hate them? Love them? Necessary evil. Art?
Should be singular.
Should be singular. Priority. Let me mark that off. Priority. Okay. So I've been a product owner for about 7 years, and I've done prioritization lots of different times, even before I was a product owner as a QA manager. So this is some ideas around priorities that I've used before, ideas around priorities that I've failed with, or ways to do priorities that I've failed with. And I kind of want to share those with you guys.
Did I miss monkey time?
You missed monkey time. So if you want to tweet at me or at my Product Owner podcast, feel free. Those are down at the bottom. So let's start with this one. Here we go. Anybody seen this quote before? If we have data, let's look at data. While we have our opinions, let's use mine. I'm the CEO of Netscape. All right? My opinion is the one that matters. Is that a good way to prioritize? Does anybody prioritize like that? No?
Oh, yes, hippos all the time.
Hippos. You know what's worse than hippos? By the way, there's a hippo. You knew that was coming. That's good. What I find more annoying than when it's a hippo giving me priorities is when it's somebody else who says, Dave really wants this thing, and it'd be really good if we could get it for Dave. That's the same thing, right? They're trying to leverage that. Highest paid person's opinion is what a hippo is. That's not a good way to prioritize things. But I've done that before. Some of you guys, oh, thank you. That's good, that's one. That's good. See how natural it is? Gotta keep my eye on that. I'm glad he's sitting back there. So, highest paid person's opinion. That's what a hippo. Prioritization is a zoo, by the way. You'll see this is a theme. Anybody know what this is? A zebra's rear end. Does anybody prioritize using zebras? People who have zero evidence but are really arrogant.
Do I have to mention names?
No. Zero evidence but really arrogant. I really want this. May not be a highest paid person's opinion, but they have a lot of influence. They have a lot of say-so.
There's a lot of butts going on, but I'm...
Am I doing it again? Okay. I'm going to count it when I get home. Sorry. Anybody do this? Now I'm conscious of it. There's one last one I want to show you. This is, I made this. This is, we only work on the last fire. The latest fire, that's what we work on. Whatever is the hot property today. That's how we prioritize. Whatever's on fire, we go put it out. And then we go to the next fire, and then the next fire, and then the next fire. Maybe you use those three, or maybe you say those three are bad. We've got something more sophisticated. We categorize our priorities. We have several categories. Great. Essential, critical, must have. Those are our three priorities. How can you prioritize like that? High, medium, low, critical, severe. We have 17 priorities. Categorizations of priorities. That's bad too. So all these things I've been stuck in, and I'm sure you've been stuck in too. So I'll give you some strategies and some ways to try to work through some of these things. And hopefully some of them will help. First thing to start with when you want to determine your priorities is, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Prioritization for the sake of prioritization is not going to get you anywhere. If I have 1,000 things that need to get done, I need some way to say which one should be first, which one should be second. I need a goal. I need something to work towards. So if I don't have a goal, prioritization is not really going to help. So, goals, outcomes, what are we looking to achieve? First step, have a goal. These are some goals that I've used before. They're either release goals, sprint goals, PI goals, some type of goals that we're using to prioritize, either for the next 6 months, for the next month, for the next year. What do we need to accomplish? If I have a goal, I can prioritize to that goal. Anything that doesn't meet that goal doesn't get prioritized. Even if a hippo comes in the room. So if I have a goal, then I can start prioritizing. Who do I need to help me prioritize? Anybody? Customers? Who else? Data? Okay. Somebody said something back here? Development team? Okay, they can help you prioritize, sure. Who else? Stakeholders. Those are usually the ones that I have to debate prioritizations with. Teams are good debate too, but they're usually more open. I said it again. So, there's lots of stakeholders. I think I have about 40 stakeholders on my current project. That's on a conservative count. So when you have multiple stakeholders, you have to narrow it down to the essential few. We can't prioritize against 60 stakeholders and customers and teams and everything else. So you have to figure out a way to prioritize your stakeholders. How do you do that? This is a great chart. This is something that Roman Pitchler has, and I believe he got it from somebody else as well. But this is a way to map your stakeholders. And I do this with every project. This lets me know who's the most important person to consult or work with when I'm prioritizing things. If somebody has low power and low interest, I just need to keep them informed. Here's the site that we're using. Here's our Confluence site where you can get all the information about the release or about what we're working on. Low power, low interest. If it's somebody that has high power and low interest, consult with them. My development managers, my test managers, my other managers that are working in the system that I'm working in. I have to let them know what's going on. High interest, low power. Most of our executives, most of our marketing people, most of our sales people usually go in there. For me, for you it'll be different. Again, who's your stakeholders? Who's your most important people that you're working with? And then the players, who do you need to collaborate with? High power, high interest. They talk to you every day, multiple times a day. If you screw up, you're going to hear about it from them. Or if there's something important, you're going to hear about it from them. Your hippos and your hippos are in there usually. I did this on the project that I started about a year ago. It's still pretty much valid. A couple people have moved around, but I put all 60 people in this. When I talk about one of the techniques I'll talk about in a minute, the people that I got to play the game were my collaborators, and there were 6 of them. The other people watched and had some input, but they didn't play the games. So you can't please, I did it again, you can't please everybody. That was a bad idea. It's a hard thing to do. Anybody do this before? Do anything like this? Yes? What's your experience with it?
It was kind of, I tried to get my BAs to map this stuff out. And about half of them were into it, about half of them.
Half of the BAs were into it?
Half the BAs
Okay.
were into it, about half were not. It was a little
Okay.
weird. I thought everybody would jump all over it. It seems like a great idea to me.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that, for me, I did it once, and it's pretty much stayed there. I've revisited a couple times if people have left the program and joined the program. I kind of add them to that. And it's a shared map. I share it with all my leadership team. Really good technique. So we've got a goal, and we know who to consult. Yes?
So when you said you had 60 stakeholders,
Yes.
I thought you meant 60 different types of groups, but you really meant
Individuals.
And so you plotted individuals
Yes.
against
Yes.
this. Interesting.
Yes. Names of individuals are on my map that I have. Yes?
Anybody ever want to move to a different square?
Of course. if
How did you keep them in their square?
you don't tell them at first. This can be an exercise for you, or it could be an exercise for your team. Yes, yes. My perception of where they sit. Right. If you have a very collaborative group, if you have a very lean or agile organization that you think they would respond positively to seeing their name somewhere on here, then please go ahead and work with them on it. If you have an organization where if somebody sees they're here, and no, I should be up here, then that's going to be an interesting conversation. So the first couple of times I do this, my boss hasn't seen this, by the way, where that map is. It's for our team that we're doing. Okay? So we've got our goal, and we've got our people who are going to help us prioritize. So the most important thing for prioritization, and somebody's already said it, we have a stack rank. We have a list of things in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. I had a QA backlog one time that had 6,000 defects in it. I never want to get to that again. Most of my backlogs now are about 150, 200 per team. So for my program backlog, if I've got 5 teams, I've got about 1,000 things in a backlog. But they're all ranked. They all have to be ranked. I don't care if it's 1 and 1.1 and 1.11 and 1.03, however many decimals you want to use or anything else, as long as it's an ordered list, you're good. Every technique we're going to talk about produces an ordered list. That's the most important thing for prioritization for me. So I have an ordered list. Here's 40 highs. Great. Which one's first? No, these are really important. Great. Which one's first? Which one's second? If they can narrow it down, work with them on narrowing it down. Well, these are the top 5 we have to do. Great, let's look at those 5. Which one is most important? Keep coming, keep coming. I've done 1, 1A, 1B, 1C, just to appease them, but I still have a priority list.
But I still have
But I still have a priority list.
Are you aware that Jira actually just gives them order numbers?
Yeah, let me try that again in English. Has anybody seen the priorities in Jira? The hierarchy? What code is that? It's like an OXCD 176. That's not a priority. That's not a rank. That's some weird computer code that I can't make sense of. TFS is no better, right? None of them are, really. So have a ranked list or a stacked rank list. Even if you have 1,000 of them, they need to be in some rank order. Like I said, I've dealt with a list of 6,000 before. I don't want to do that, so I group them if I need to prioritize them like that. Stack rank all your stories, stack rank all your epics. Whoever put Batman number 1, I don't know what they were thinking, but they ranked Batman number 1. So, always stack rank your stories, your epics, your bugs. Basically, stack rank all the things. Except, just to make sure it's clear, do not stack rank people. Bell curves suck for performance stuff. I just want to put that out there. Stack rank story, stack rank epics. Everything else should die. Okay, a lot of the techniques that I'm going to show you have come from this website. I picked up some of these from there. Some of them I've heard about before. This is Folding Burritos. They have 2 articles on their website. One of them is this, 20 prioritization techniques. The other is a in-depth discussion of one of the techniques I'll show you. So this is a really good chart. It's really good information, and we'll talk about a couple of these. The best way to see a complete picture for your prioritization, for me, is something I've done a couple times, story mapping. This, to me, gives the clearest picture of what we're working on, what's the most important to work on, and how it fits together. If I'm looking at a ranked backlog, I can't see how those pieces fit together because it's an ordered list. If I see this, I can see what's in the first release for which parts, I see what's in the second release for which parts, and I can see how that fits together. Who does story mapping? Couple hands? Yay, nay, success, goods, thumbs ups, goods. Any negatives about this? Or any problems you've seen with this?
I've got a question.
Sure.
Do you typically do it top down or bottom up?
Do I typically do story mapping top down or bottom up? From the actions or the stories, you mean? We're talking about the actions up top?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I usually...
I've kind of seen it done both ways, where you have sort of the high level flow and then you start to fill in the detail.
Yeah.
I've also done it where it's a little bit unclear what we're trying to
What is the flow?
write.
Yeah.
And so then I've gone sort of to the bottom, and then we do affinity mapping, and then from there we
Sure.
do categories and kind of go from there.
I think I've done it both ways too. The best way for me is start with the skeleton. Start with the walking skeleton of actions and workflow and how they're going to do those things, and then start to build those stories out. Yes?
Might add, because I've been through that, but for highly technical issues, sometimes it is, I agree with you, as you get the developers involved, and sometimes it does work bottom up when it's a very technical project.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's the difference, right? I mean, you're talking about something that you can't have a clear user behavior or outcome.
It may be unknown. So the example Dean's talking about is we were actually trying to map sort of the process and flow of the software development process, including where were we testing things, what gates were things going through as it moved through different environments. It was a process thing, and this was a software development team that really wasn't thinking in process. They knew, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this. They could capture that, and so that's what we did, is we basically captured that, and then we started grouping it together. Then it turned into a cohesive flow of this needs to happen in this order.
Yeah.
But it was more of a discovery of what the flow was from the detail, but it was starting very technical, to Dean's point.
Again, this is my favorite technique. When I use this, I discover things I didn't know, which is great for helping to prioritize things, because if I lay out a couple stories and the developer says, hey, what about, or an analyst or a stakeholder says, you forgot about so-and-so. It's obvious. I can see that now. Okay, great. Where should that go? Should we move it down? Should we move it over? What do they need to do in the first release here versus what do they need to do in the second release versus what do they need to do in the third release? Or sprints, however you want to slice it up. I've done it both ways. Story mapping, great way. And again, if you're using a tool or you're using this on a wall, which is my preferred method, put stickies on there. This one's done. This is in progress. We're making progress. This leads to conversations. Leads to very good conversations. Yes?
it's too much? Like, what's the nice balance of making it?
It really depends. Like I said, I've done it with teams that are working in a 2-week sprint. I've story mapped out, 6 sprints. I've done it with releases where I've said, okay, we have for this release or for this PI is what I'm doing now. We have a 3-month PI. We have 3 releases, one every month. Each one of these is a monthly release, and that's what our PI looks like for an epic or a story. Yes.
Do you routinely use this chart as part of stand-ups? Is there a lot to cover here?
Stand-ups, no, but we use it for, I said it again, but we use it for everything else. We use it for stakeholder meetings. We use it for story grooming sessions or story discovery sessions. We use it for sprint demos, sprint reviews. We use it to talk to this. We say these things are done, right? We put a sticky note on there and say these are done. And this is a story that's going to drop to the next release because whatever. Or here's a new story we discovered that's going to go in the next release. Really good conversations. Yes?
At what point does effort estimation hurt this picture?
After this is kind of understood. The rough skeleton for this is understood, and then we can go back in and start estimating. And then based on those estimates, if we say, okay, these were the ones we selected for release 1, but that's 60 points and we can only do 40. Okay, which ones come out? Which ones go here? Which ones go here? So once you have a rough idea, then I like to start estimating. But this helps kind of sort what's the most important things to get done for the first one. Just give me the damn monkey. I'm going to keep saying it. Dang it. Yes? Would I consider each release an MVP? No. The first release is MVP. Every other release builds on it.
Well, that could be an incremental MVP, right?
To me, an MVP is a one release. I do an MVP once. If I keep doing an MVP, then I'm doing more MVPs. I release something and then I learn and I build on it. It's like having a phase 2 of a project. I don't want an epic that says phase 2 anything. I've built my MVP, I've delivered it, now I'm iterating on it every time. Yes?
Before you got into this stories, did you start with fixing features?
Yeah, I can start with epics or features. Yeah. Yeah, go to stories. What I'm doing most of the time with this right now is our user activities or our epics. And then I can break it into stories. I've done it both ways though. It's a really flexible tool. If you want to learn more about it, there's really good links from Jeff Patton and David Hussman about story mapping. And I encourage everybody to look at it. There's a free tool for a certain number of users called Cardboard It, which is a great tool for story mapping. It's what I prefer to use. However, this came from Real-Time Board, and if your organization uses Real-Time Board, it's getting better for story mapping. However, I much prefer sticky notes and a wall, a big, long wall, and do it on there. Yes?
I love sticky notes also, this may build this accolade. If you have any distributed team members.
If you have distributed team members, it's much harder. If you have a completely distributed team where you have 2 people in Raleigh, 2 people in New York, 2 people in India, 2 people in Cape Town, like I do for most of my stuff, I have to use Real-Time Board. I don't want to, and I'm trying to think of a way that I could actually do something like this. This is most effective for me. This is me. This is one of my product owners when I worked on a job and we were learning a new product. We used this technique to map out what that product did. That's how we learned it in about 2 days.
What was the tool you said?
Real-Time Board and Cardboard It.
What was that one?
Cardboard It.
Okay.
David Hussman's Dev Jams makes it. There's lots of others. Those are the 2 that I'm most familiar with. So, story mapping. Get on the floor, do it, note cards. Really good technique for having conversations, especially if you're on an offsite meeting where you got everybody on your team together. Get some note cards, get some sticky notes, put it on the wall, then transfer it to a tool. And if you want to, keep the wall up, and when something gets updated in the tool, go move it on the wall. We did this with one of our big wall planning sessions. I put every epic that we went through on a wall. It didn't go anywhere, but it looked cool for a couple of months until people decided it wasn't moving anywhere. So story mapping, great technique. What if you have to trade off something for something else? I love this image. It's my new favorite image. So there are ways to do some calculation with data, some type of data. We need something to prioritize with. The two most common things you're going to have are how valuable is this thing we're supposed to do, and how much is it going to cost us from a development team standpoint. Value, effort. If I have those two numbers, I can come up with a list because I can do a simple ratio calculation and then get my priorities. Okay? Something that it's a value of 20, again, let's assume normal story points here. Something that's a value of 20 and an effort of 1, we should do that first. Does anybody disagree? Gives you an idea. Something that's an effort of 20 and a value of 2, why is that still there? Why are we still talking about that thing? That thing is worthless, and it's going to be expensive to implement. We should not do that. What about these three? They're all the same. They're tied. I don't know, let's have a conversation about it. Which one do we want to do first? Yes?
How do you meaningfully and repeatedly quantify value?
That is a topic for another presentation. However it makes sense for your organization. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. For the way that we've started to determine it for my program, it's how much impact are we going to have? That's the most valuable thing, the impact that we're going to have. And I'll show you a way that I calculate that. But this is the easiest thing to do. If you have nothing, start with this. Somebody knows how valuable that is. Or your stakeholders that you've mapped now can get together in a room, have them play planning poker with story point cards for value. Not effort, for value. You can come out with a list like this. The important thing is not the ratio. It's the rank. It's interesting to see that something is a 20 and something is a 0.1. But that's not the discussion you have. The discussion you have is this thing is number 21. We should not do it.
That's not the discussion.
Thank you. I picked the right man for that.
Or the wrong man.
You are a good listener. You're correct. Anybody do this simple calculation? Yes? Is there a name for this chart? Not really. I could.
Core evaluation.
No, please don't do that. It's a simple ratio. That's, when I talk about this, I mention it as the ratio. This is what a ratio looks like.
It's your weighted short belt, right?
I will talk about that in just a minute. It is not weighted shortest job first. It has very strong similarities to weighted shortest job first, but it's not that. Okay, so if I can calculate a simple ratio, then I can do multiple things with. I just got done with this book, by the way, Don Rearstein's Product Development Flow. If you're a product nerd or you're a process nerd and you like economics and flow and queue sizes, the theory of queues, this is the book for you. I love it. Just got done with it. Big part of it is weighted shortest job first. Cost of delay specifically. How long do we have to wait to get something into production? How much is that going to cost us? I have $1 million thing that I can sell, but I can't get it into production for 12 months. How do I calculate that? That's me. It's a monkey. Cost of delay is huge. So he gives several examples. If you have a shortest job first, here's what that's going to look like. If you have a high delay cost, that's what that's going to look like. And if you can do your ratios on cost of delay, that's how you can come out with, we will save the most money if we do it with a weighted shortest job first calculation based on cost of delay. I can't tell you how to calculate your own cost of delay. I'm trying to figure that out myself. But it is based on how important, how valuable something is in a monetary sense and how long it's going to take you to deliver that. That's how you figure out cost of delay. but I'm learning about that. I do it a lot. Wow, that's sad. Anybody use cost of delay? Anybody figured this out that I can steal from you or learn from you? Because I really want to figure this out. Because this speaks to product economics, which is something I like. I don't like accountants, but I like product economics. This is what, okay, so there's two weighted shortest job first. The top one is Rierstein's, the flow model, right? Cost of delay divided by time. The bottom one is what SAFe uses. Any SAFe fans here? Yeah, okay, anybody use SAFe? That's how they, there's a difference. That's how they calculate that. They don't use cost of delay as a specific number. They use it as a calculation. I like Rierstein's model best. But there's ways, I did it again, there's ways to do that. Business value, timing impact, risk reduction, add those up, divide it by the size, you get your ratio. That's your SAFe weighted shortest job first. I did a variant of this at my last PI session. Actually, this one we did. This is something Steve Johnson, who's presenting across town, has that I really, really like. This is his way that he talks to stakeholders about how do we prioritize your things. On a scale of 1 to 5 for each of these, how important is this thing to us? What's its value to us? How important is this to our market? And how happy are we with the current solution that we have? Do we have a solution? Do we have a solution that works pretty well? This can give you a way to prioritize those, again, with the effort to deliver. That's your team's estimate for how much that's going to be. You can come up with a number for that. 1 through 5, you can add questions, you can do different things to it. This is kind of what we use as our basis for last time. And it worked out pretty well. These are the 20 or so epics that we brought into our last PI session. Those are not the actual names. And that's how we did it. We said, what's the value to us, the importance to our market, dissatisfaction with the current solution. I added revenue, because I keep getting told we need to generate more revenue. Great, that's my goal, generate more revenue, make money. We'll do that. We'll add that as a category. Actually, what I did was I did the calculation here. That gives me my ratio. Then I took my ratio, multiplied it to my revenue. That's my impact. I've never seen that before, but hey, it works. That lets me know how something's going to scale if it makes more money. The thing I really like about this, I'll answer that just a second. The thing I really like about this, number 3 is number 2 on revenue. It has a 2 on revenue. We define a 5 as $1 million or more. A 1 as $10,000 or less. So something that's going to make a little more than 10,000 got prioritized as number 3 on our rank. Yes, question?
Were you saying you add the values or multiply the values?
Yep, so we add these 3, divide it by this, that gives us this number, and then I multiply it times this to get this number. Again, I just added the revenue there as something because it was something I was getting asked about a lot. It was very important to my stakeholders. We need more revenue. We need to generate more money. Okay, let's add that as a prioritization knob, and let's tweak it and see what it looks like. Question?
How close is your revenue estimation to your revenue realization?
Really bad. Humans, I'm digging into no estimates, the movement of no estimates. One thing I really like is they talk about the fact that humans are bad at estimating things. And this is not an estimation talk, but this is a prioritization talk. We're bad at it, but at least we know. When we come back to this one, we'll be able to tell. We thought this was going to make $1 million. It made $500,000. Yes?
Bad because you just, you're
to be.
Because we're humans and we're bad at estimating.
Yeah.
Just full stop. We need data,
Yeah, okay.
right? So if I think this is going to make me $1 million, in how much time? In 6 months, this will make me $1 million. Okay, let's come back to it in 6 months after we develop it or build it. Did we make $1 million? No. Why not? That's the question you ask it.
Just don't really do really good with crystal balls.
There's a meatball shop around the corner. Or data. Now, the other interesting thing you'll see is at the end of these columns, first pass, second pass, third pass. When I'm talking to my stakeholders in a prioritization meeting or a PI planning meeting, and I present the ranked list, they don't see these numbers. Myself and the product owners are the only ones who see those numbers. I don't think they could handle the ratios. And I took a chance with this prioritization technique, which is the third one I've done in 9 months, that they could handle this part. I'll tell you why in a minute. When we did this the first time and we had a ranked order list and we actually said, what are we actually going to do? This is a prioritization technique. This is not what you're actually going to do. That's a conversation you have with your stakeholders and your teams. This is what the list says we should do based on this data. Now that we have data, what do we think about it? Do we agree with it or not? The first time I did this, what we actually implemented was from the middle of the list. So they chose lower priorities than what my scale showed them. But they did that knowingly. Why did they do that? So-and-so has already promised this thing to this customer. Are we contractually obligated to do that? Are we going to get fined if we don't do that? Yes. Well, then I guess we have to do that, even though it's number 13 on our list. Yes?
So how do you explain value to us? If it's different than revenue and different than these negative consequences, what does value to us?
Value, who has a good definition? Because I'm continually learning. This is the most difficult thing to define, is value, right?
At least different depending on who you're talking to, which stakeholder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you define value for your company? What's your goal, right? If your goal is to make more money, which is what most companies' goals are, can you define that in a simpler term? For this quarter, how do we want to make money? This 6 months, how do we want to make money? This sprint, how do we want to try to make money? Or are we trying to do something else? Do we want to retain users? Do we want to sign up new players? Do we want to reduce the amount of returns that we get for something? Again, what's our goal? How does that apply to whatever we're doing? And that's our value.
So your chart here is assuming that all of those meet the goal.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And because we have so much on the goal,
Yep.
then you're trying to figure out.
Yep. So this gives me a list. And like I said, the second pass, third pass, fourth pass, that's how we order them in the PI. So in this case, we're not working on the highest priority thing first. We're working on the 6th, 7th priority thing first. Why? Because we had a conversation about it. It made sense. In that case, that's one of the smaller epics we had on the board, development time-wise. We could get that one done in a reasonable amount of time. I'm very big right now on getting stuff done. That's important to me. So with the priorities in place, I can choose to do the most highest priority one for me to get something done. To then have a conversation with the stakeholders going, look, we can build something inside of 2 sprints. Isn't that a good thing? An epic at that. Questions about this? Other questions? Confusions? Yes?
You get the stakeholders to fill in those first 3 columns there?
Yeah, actually, I created a epic canvas. If you've seen Roman Pitchler's or any other A4 type sheets, is it A4, A3 sheets, where it's a piece of paper or a PDF, then you fill out information on it. One of the things we added, we created our own from Romans, and one of the things we added was those boxes. 1 to 5, give me a ranking on these things. And we all talked about it. All 60 stakeholders, we talked about it. Everybody understood why those rankings were the way they were. And then we fed them into this. And they saw the results. If you want to weight some more than others, feel free. This gets into territory where I think we're doing too much. We're playing too much Excel gymnastics with what we're doing. Prioritization is best when it's simple, when you're not trying to do too much. This to me is pushing too much. Yes?
Prioritization is best when you have team buy-in and do you feel like the tools you show us get to that group?
It gets everybody on the same page. Whether they agree with it or not, I've never had 100% of the group walk out going, yeah, those are the right things to do. I've had most of the group. I've had 70, 80% of the group. And as long as I get my 6 top stakeholders, because I've mapped them, I'm okay. If I've got 4 of those people and not the other 2, I'm going to have problems. If I've got those 6, but others that are involved or down there, then I'm okay. I feel okay. I'm not going to please everybody. I'm always going to be late and over budget. I work on projects, software projects, right? So if you want to weight those, feel free. The next best way is to get data from customers. Not next best. Another way is to get data from customers. How do you do that? NPS scores. Anybody use that? Yeah? Do you do any prioritization with NPS?
Well, little, yes.
Little, okay. Yes? No? Anybody else? What about customer effort score? That's a new one I've learned. I like that one. I've been asking surveys with customer effort score. So, what if we could ask our customers for a feature or for something, a thing we're planning on building, how would they feel if it was there? How would they feel if it's not there? And based on a range of answers from 1 to 5, we could come up with a scale. This is called a Kano analysis. Kano is very good because it lets you see where those things might lie. Every product and everything that you use has basic expectations. If I get in a car, I expect it to be able to stop when I hit the brakes. When I go to a hotel room, I expect there to be hot water when I go to take a shower. I have to have my basic expectations met to be able to be happy. I can never get higher than this. There's a very flat curve for my basic expectations. They're either there or they're not there. Satisfiers. The more of something I have, the better off I am. The more gas mileage I have in my car, the happier I am. The more horsepower I have in my car, usually the better off I am. Those two things are mutually exclusive. All right? Delighters. I didn't expect it, but when I saw it, I was really happy. I go to my hotel room, and there's a piece of chocolate on my pillow. That's pretty nice. Or they have cookies, fresh baked cookies when I walk in the lobby from a hotel room, a conference. Oh, do they have peanut butter? Because I want a peanut butter cookie. I was so happy I went to go see Spider-Man this weekend, and I opened my Fandango app where I bought my tickets. And as soon as I opened my app, about 15 minutes before the movie started, it popped up with a screen and said, your tickets are here. And it had this really weird wavy background, and I clicked a button and there was my tickets. I didn't know it was going to do that, but man, that was great. So unexpected. Satisfiers, right? What happens over time, though? Delighters move down into basic expectations. You have anti-lock brakes in your car, right? Pretty soon, those become standard. I have to have that need met. Now I need something else. Now I need FLIR on my car, heads-up displays or something else. That's a satisfier, right? So Kano analysis is a way to get you answers to those types of questions. Using just those two questions, because it gives you a grid of answers. Like it, expect it, don't care, live with it, dislike. Your car will not be able to stop. Dislike. Right? How would you feel if brakes were present? I expect it. How would you feel if they weren't present? I dislike it. Well, that goes into a must category, right? The nice thing about this grid is there's only things on this edge that matter. Everything in the middle here is either reversed or they don't care enough to make it on that board. I did this for my second PI prioritization. And I asked the questions as we were going through the 30 epics that we were talking about. How would you feel if this wasn't there? How would you feel if this was there? And then I interpreted their answers into that ratio that I'll show you in a minute, that you've seen before. And then I plotted them out. When I plotted them out, they look like that. So there's all our epics, blurred for obvious reasons. There's all the epics we talked about, and there's how they graphed on there. There were some things that were new that were meeting the categories of basic expectations. There were some that met satisfiers, some that met performance. So we did a little of each. That's how we prioritized it. Really good technique, and really good if you can get user input to this. Feedback sessions, surveys, user groups, really good for that. And it's a really cool technique too. The Folding Burritos site, the 2 articles, the other one is a really in-depth explanation of how to do this. And I really liked it. Problem with this was, and the reason I changed it for my third one, is when I told them and showed them kind of what we were doing, they wanted to know how I came up with the numbers. So they wanted to play the game, right? They wanted to be able to change those numbers based on what they thought should be number 1, not what actually was number 1, which is a really hard thing to get people to understand. I'm going to do the calculation. We're going to see what the priorities should be. Then we're going to have a conversation about what they actually want them to be or what you actually will take forward. But they're different. Luckily, when I did it the third time, when I showed you the spreadsheet, we pretty much did all the top ones, right? Second time, this time, we came from the middle. Third time, we came from the top. And that was good. The most fun way that I've done prioritization is the first time I did prioritization because I had nothing else to go on. I had 45 people in a room. I'd done my stakeholder map, but I had to find a way to prioritize, and we did affinity mapping for our first one. We said, we don't know what epics we're going to work on, but everybody throw things on a wall. And we did, and we affinity mapped them. David was there, he did it. And we had 13 different categories of things that we wanted to work on. Great. How do we prioritize? I took what our budget turned out to be for the program. I took my 6 big stakeholders and I gave them Monopoly money. And I said, we're going to play poker or buy a feature. So you 6 stakeholders, take your money and go put it on those initiatives that you like the best or you think is the most valuable. And let's have a conversation about that. I learned more from that just by the conversations about what people actually did that I didn't think they were going to do than I have from just about any other technique. Because you really see where they put their money, literally put their money. If you have poker chips, this works well. I have a big poker case. It works well for that. Monopoly money, again, you can do it online if you want to. But you really get to see where people would put their money if they could. It's a great technique for doing that. Anybody done this before? Yes? Fun? Yeah? Outcomes? Yeah? Do you do it often or just one time? Yeah?
Trying to get everybody together for it.
It's a good start. Yeah. I think it's a good way if you have a way to come back to it occasionally. I definitely would. So this is what I did when I had nothing. It's a real easy way to start.
Is there a way of skimming the big?
You want to skim?
The big on it, yeah.
I don't know. You could. What else? Yeah, don't use real money. Don't use real money. What if we have nothing else? So I'll show you the least favorite technique that I have that I try not to use, but is somewhat popular. Anybody know what this place is? I'm trying a different image, so we'll see.
Is it a Lego building?
It is not a Lego building. Oh, this is good. I like this. Nobody knows. What? Kernersville. It is not Kernersville. This is Moscow. I didn't want to use the basilica and the other things that are typically seen in Moscow. This is what Moscow is. Lots of software companies there. Lots of high tech. So this is Moscow. Everybody seen the Moscow prioritization method? Must have, could have, should have, won't have. I don't know all the haves, but there's different things that you can put in there. And they're usually around those 4. If you have to do this, this is high, medium, low priorities, right? If you have high, medium, low, it's the same thing to me as Moscow. If you have to do something like this, if you can't use the other techniques, and this is the only thing you can do, because that's all your people will give you, then bucket these things. Do a little bit of high, do a little bit of medium, do a little bit of low. I didn't know if this was a smart idea or not, but I find it increasingly funny to tell people that your thing didn't make the prioritization list, the cutoff list. It's down below, but they keep wanting to come back and saying, hey, is that thing going to get done? Your thing was number 27. We took 10. No, it doesn't meet the goal. It didn't rank high enough in the prioritization. We're out of capacity. It's not getting in. Yes?
So 9 times out of 10 in my experience, this is what the hippos see. Right? This is their buckets, everything's number 1.
Yep.
Right? So that's really what they're seeing. They just see there are 30 features that they want, so there might be 20 features in the should, 30. We're just had to explain to them, it now needs to be broken down more.
Yes. So I have 50 highs. Great.
Right.
You get half of it in highs, half of it in mediums, half of it in lows. Why don't they all become high? Really? That's what we're going to play? Again.
Well, you might as well just drop the last 20% because they're not going to get done either.
Well, that's why, if you're going to do it this way, try to bucket those things.
Yeah, I mean, because you get these things coming out, it's P1, P2, P3, and it's like, all right, at a certain level, it's never going to happen. Why even take the ticket? Why even set the expectation?
Yeah. I don't like this method. I would do anything else other than this.
Because this almost in a way teaches them to do that.
Yes. Yes. But this is very popular. This has been out there for a long time. It comes out of a lot of waterfall-ish project management things.
9 times out of 10, you can just do P1, P2, P3.
Yeah, exactly. This is your critical, must-have, severe. Okay. Okay. Anybody use this? Know that I've crapped all over it? Kinda?
Especially for epic planning, because when you have really big epics that are like months long,
Mhm.
it's hard to get a sense of where are you. So the only benefit of that is breaking those stories up into this,
Mhm.
so that you can get a sense of how is this epic going? Is it delivered? Is it not? Because we don't have the time to kind of figure out what is MVP for that epic. No one agrees on what MVP for that epic is,
Right.
but they can agree on that.
Yeah. Okay. If that works, I mean, it's a good
No,
first
it doesn't
step,
work
right?
well,
It doesn't work well.
No, well, I wouldn't
Excellent.
praise it. I just we've used it.
And that's a good thing. You'll see kind of at the back end of this, but try something, right? If it doesn't work, again, just like we teach with teams and try things, it's a failed experiment. We learned something. What did we learn? We learned we don't like this method because blah, 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 right? Let's explore a different method next time. Like I said, I've done 3 PI sessions in 9 months. I've changed it every time. And we're going to change it again for the 4th one. Okay, so here's the title. Title slide, yay, we made it. How to do this with some sort of sanity. The first one is a big one. That's hard to get people to understand. We can't do everything. It is physically impossible for us to do anything. We can get all the outsourced candidates in the world, we can get all the people working overtime in the world. We cannot do everything. Uncertainty is a key. Right? We're making a plan for X. and we don't know how long that is going to be or what's going to come up in the meantime. So we need to plan for some sort of uncertainty in our prioritization. What happens if this happens? Let's have a backup plan. Let's have a triplicate backup plan. Plan D, Plan E. Everybody's heard the Eisenhower quote and the Mike Tyson quote. Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face. I forgot which one's which. So yeah, you're going to have uncertainty in your plans, in your prioritization. Deal with that. Talk about it. Talk openly about it. A lot of what they try to do in most project management or waterfall is reduce the amount of uncertainty. Agile embraces that uncertainty. We know we're going to have it. Let's figure out how to deal with it. Pick something, start working on it. What's priority one? This one. Go. Let's go. Let's start working on it. Don't wait. Let's start working on it. And then you get another number one when that one's done. Great. Start working on that. Keep going. Questions, insights. Again, trying to get data. Trying to get some form of data. Some data we can work with. If we don't have good analytics from our product or good input from our customers, let's make something up that we can at least use to do some sort of prioritization. Teams, designers, start the next item, keep going. Any questions about this? So, picking priorities. Have a goal. What do you want to do? What are you trying to accomplish? You're trying to make money? You're trying to do something else? I realize there's nonprofits in the world, okay. I just read The Goal, too, by Goldratt. If anybody wants to read that book, highly recommended. The goal of the business is to make money. Yes? Is that a typo? Probably. I don't even know what it is, but it's probably a typo. Stank. Maybe they do stink. I don't know.
That's how we say it.
Stank, right? Yes. So have your goal, and then pick your stakeholders, the ones that matter. Get them to help you. And then try something. Try a method. Try something. Try it once. Try it twice. Tweak it if it didn't work exactly the way you wanted it to. Stack rank the results. Get your ordered list. And then see how that went after the PI or after your sprint or after your release. Did we feel good about that prioritization? Did it work out correctly? What did we learn from it? What problems did we have? What do we want to try next? Okay. Oh, one more animal. Hopefully, with some of the discussion we had around priorities at the front, you will agree that priorities are not dumb anymore. Okay? Thank you. Any questions? Questions.
Corey, so love the animal theme and the structure of the presentation. So putting personal feelings towards safe aside.
Oh boy.
So the brilliance of it, besides the business model, is you are at a business level committing to doing release planning as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that is like, if you could take one thing away from SAFE, I suggest that be it. So can you kind of share a little bit about the impact that's had on your team from a product owner perspective in actually having the venue to do this stuff, right? So you've kind of gone through an evolution,
Yeah.
but your organizational implementation of Agile at scale has afforded you the opportunity to do this.
It's something that we're working on as an organization, is trying to become more agile. I won't say transformation because that assumes an endpoint, right? Sure. We're going to continue to do this, continue to get better. It really has led to better conversations and a lot more understanding on the business side. So when our stakeholders come to us with something, we can pull up that story map, we can pull up our sheet and say, what you're asking about is here. And they say, oh yeah, I forgot, that didn't get prioritized. they're willing to have the conversations. That's a big step. There are some groups that aren't willing to have those conversations, right? They just, this is the priority, go do it. I'm hippo, they play hippo. So there are still resistance to some of that. It helps when the 6 stakeholders I've got 5 of them bought into the system, right? They get it, they understand it, they're helping, they're learning, so they're not on the same level that I'd like them to be, but they're willing to get there for most of them. And I'm working with them as best I can to help them see that. So we do it 3 days, every 3 months. We get together and talk about all our priorities. And we do it every week too.
So what have you learned, 3 evolutions of this? You've said you've tried 3 different things,
Yep.
and you hope to do a 4th. Do you see an end to that, or are you just going to keep trying new things to find what you love?
I think we're going to settle into something. I think once we settle into something that's defined from the business side, the value one is a good one, right? They came up with that, and I wanted to come up with numbers for the other things. So when we do that, 1 through 5, value to us, value to the market, what does a 5 mean, right? Don't just say 5 and have somebody else say a 4. What does a 5 mean objectively? That's why I like the revenue value they came up, right? A 5 is $1 million or more. Great. A 1 is $10,000 or less. Great. Those are objective, right? This thing either is going to make or isn't going to make based on what we value, that type of conversation. So I'm hoping we get better at that so that the conversations we're having is about the results, not the way that we do that. So I'm hoping those conversations evolve to that point.
So then final question for me, and then I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing. So you've got your modified RACI chart, your grid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have in your own mind as the business representative and decision maker for priority, who is important, whose opinion matters.
Mm-hmm.
But in an agile approach, you still have to have the courage to say no. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
At some point. So how do you manage that? You kind of shared a story of we pick stuff out of the middle or we pick stuff haphazardly despite the data.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you just say, no, listen, I'm the product owner, I'm deciding what's going to happen?
There's a couple things that we did say no to. A couple things that came out on the list that we said no to because they weren't ready. It wasn't a fact that I didn't believe them that it was going to make $1 million or that I didn't think it wasn't important to the market. It said it wasn't ready for the next 3 months of what we're going to do. So here's this big architectural thing that we need to do, and it's really important, and it's really going to be impactful. It's going to make us a lot of money. We're not ready to build that yet. We don't have the expertise on the teams. We don't have the licenses. We can't start this in a month. We can start it in 6 months. We can start talking about it today, but we can't do that work now.
And the business has to trust technology
Yes.
that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, Art. No monkey throwing, please.
So we didn't, sometimes what goes into value is a timing component.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the big end of a quarter, they may have a higher priority simply because they have to get it done for the
Trade show or
trade show or government regulation.
right, sure,
Whatever.
yeah.
So how do you manage that? Because that would be a moving priority because it's.
So that's one of the things we had on that the list that I showed. The big one, which one? Oh. On this list, importance to the market. How important is this to our market? Well, we have a deadline. That's pretty important. Or we to get fined. That's pretty important, right? That's how we worked on defining that.
And you're saying within this quarter?
Within this quarter, right? Within this PI, if we don't get this done by September 31st, we get fined a lot of money. So that's important to our market. So we should make that a 5. Or this is something we really want to do, but the market really doesn't care. But we care about it because it affects our users or it affects something else.
How do you handle change? You could go through this whole process, stack rank everything, and
Mm-hmm.
like 3 weeks later, some new thing comes up that
You see this? You see this? These fell out, right? This is, I think this is an issue we've been trying to do for 6 months. We need other people, we need other teams to help us with this, right? They're not ready yet. I'm not doing that, right? We prioritized it high. I went out of that meeting literally 30 minutes after a 3-day meeting, went over to the guys, said, are you guys ready for this? They said no. But okay, we're not doing it. It literally changed 30 minutes after. It changed one other one about a day later. But it's been like this. Actually, I did a 5th pass when I took this screenshot. We've had a 5th pass. It's been that way for 2 weeks. We haven't started the work yet. We start the work in about a week. But it hasn't changed. And I know it will. So when it changes, we have a conversation. All right? One of these items is a client that hasn't signed a deal with us yet that we're planning on doing because we've been trying to do it for 6 months. They still haven't signed a deal. Every week I ask, have we got a signed deal? Did they sign the contract? No.
So is that then saying that the approach to the market is lower?
It could be.
Because they haven't signed yet.
It could be. The conversations we've had, though, because of that is, if they don't sign, is this still important to us?
Yeah.
Yes. Great, then we'll keep doing it. Even if they don't sign, because other customers will benefit from it. And that's worth it to us. We know it's going to change. It's just how the degrees of it's going to change, right? And these are the epics that we're working on, the epics we're working on. We're working on smaller stories, one-off stories. To me, every epic needs stories. All stories do not need an epic, to me. So if there's a small story, a small 1-2 point story to tweak some service or something like that, yeah, we can do it. Prioritize it with the rest of the work. Get it done. Yes?
What about if you got something like, you've got a customer with deep pockets that says, here, I'm going to give you a ton of money for this one that we really want.
Yes.
But it doesn't really fit with your other 20 customers. Do you go ahead and say, oh, that's a large chunk of money, we'll do it? Or do you say, well, that's diverting the product away from where we want to focus?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that type of dilemma?
Again, I'll fall back to what's the goal, right? If your goal is to satisfy that particular client, I worked in shops. I worked in a shop that we had one client that drove 90% of our development work.
Right.
And that's what we did, right? They said jump, we said where. And we built it.
I mean, you can become really mercenary, right? If you have to make
Yeah.
yourself understand the paradigm, but if your goal is to make money so you can stay in business.
Maybe that's,
Have the big deep pockets.
Yeah.
And that gives you a little bit of squeegee room for innovation or testing something else, right? You can carve a little bit out of that.
yeah, maybe. But it, like I said, it really depends on what you're trying to do. Are you trying to get that customer's business for that quarter or that year or whatever? And everybody's okay with subverting everything to that? I don't know. Maybe that's the right thing to do. Like I said, I worked in an organization like that. I left that organization because we were basically their out-of-house development shop, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So, yes.
So this is ranking for helping product owners.
Yes.
Do you see any good side effects upwards toward your stakeholders? I mean, do they now understand whenever they take the number 1 item and stick it at number 17 because of a penalty coming up or someone promised it? I mean, are you seeing any moderating or positive impacts?
I do. Like I said, from the second to the third, where we picked all middle things in the second one, and the third thing we picked mostly the top, that's a very good sign that we're on the right track with our stakeholders, right? They did this themselves. They did this themselves. I didn't help them do this. I gave them the format, and I told them the structure. They went away and did that themselves. And they came to the group, our planning event, with those items. So they're starting to get it, right? It's a long, slow ship that you're turning in organizations, especially ones that have been built up over 16 years or whatever. Yeah.
What was the formula used for the impact calculation again?
It's the weighted shortage job first times revenue. Seemed to work out. The top 2 things are the 2 client things that we're working on because they had revenue, a lot of revenue, which made sense. Because if they didn't, then we would probably be doing them anyway. Because we have signed contracts. So, Okay, anything else? Questions, comments? If not, like I said, if you want to Delivered Product Owner Podcast I host every other week. David's been on it. Listen, it's specifically for product owners. If you're not a product owner, that's okay. You still might get something out of it. You can hit the show up, Deliver It Cast, or if you want to tweet at me for something, there's mine. So thank you.